With outbreaks of rain, mainly in the western half of the country. There will also be mist on hills and in coastal areas. Lows of 10 to 14 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
All right, welcome along to Tuesday's Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock this evening. A lot to get through. The world number one tennis player Novak Djokovic has become the latest tennis player to test positive for COVID-19. We're going to hear about, well, it seems a crazy few days in the Baltics, and we'll chat about that from 7:30. After 8, we'll hear from Alan Quinlan, who has a brand new series here on OTB Sports. You can listen to it right now on the app. He's talking to a lot of different figures in Alan Quinlan's How's the Head about their mental health, and he has a brilliant conversation with the former All Blacks coach John Kirwan, so we'll bring you that after 8. And then on the football show we'll talk to Arisha Littlejohn and Katie McCabe about their relationship, and Kevin Kilbane will join us from Canada, live from Canada on the day's football, because there is football every single day now, don't you forget it. Richie McCormick is with us. How are you?
How are you, Nathan? You all right?
I'm all right. Ronan Mullins there as well, keeping well?
All good, Nathan, yeah.
Good. Football, non-stop football, 6 o'clock kickoffs. I can get on board with 6 o'clock kickoffs. It's nice. You know, if you're not working, it's the sort of time of the evening, there's not much going on, having a bit of dinner, watching a bit of Brighton. What could be better? Richie?
Yeah, just off the back of last night, this is probably one of those games that I probably wouldn't have made it my business to watch, but because it's on in isolation at 6 o'clock, I was able to keep an eye on it. And Aaron Connolly obviously made a blistering start, was heavily involved in the first half, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, it is. It's 0-0. It is 0-0. Should be 1-0 though. Aaron Connolly, brilliant to earn a penalty for Brighton. Obviously, he made a big impact against Arsenal at the weekend. But Neil Maupay missed it. Another slow start to this game though, Richie. It's a real pattern now.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of slow starts to these games, and they kind of up to something of a crescendo. And if they don't, I guess, overcome that little hurdle in about a half an hour in, we tend to see them kind of playing out as being fairly drab affairs. So we'll hope that penalty incident has actually kick-started something in this game. We've seen a couple of injuries as well along the way and a couple of yellow cards. So there is a bit of life about it. We just need a goal more than anything else.
53106 is the text number, at Off the Ball on Twitter, or just download the app, or you can listen in or watch in. Just search for OTB Sports. Do it right now and watch, because we're going to show you some video, because this is a slightly insane story we're going to touch upon properly at 7:30, Richie. Novak Djokovic. It's sort of going back to what Sergio Garcia said about Nick Watney, that he didn't deserve it. And while it wasn't the best phrasing by Sergio Garcia, that there were others who deserved it more, as Shane Ryan said last night, maybe he meant that Nick Watney had been abiding by the rules, whereas others hadn't. Novak Djokovic, as harsh as it's to say, had it coming to him.
100%. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. He organised this mini tour down in the Balkans between Serbia and Croatia called the Adria Tour. He invited some of the world's top tennis players along, and a lot of them now have COVID-19, and a lot of their families now have COVID-19. And Djokovic is now amongst them. Him and his wife Jelena, the latest to announce that they've succumbed to the virus. It was just a bizarre idea from start to finish, in the middle of a pandemic, to stage 2 tournaments that weren't adhering to social distancing and that had crowds present and were led by somebody who is a noted anti-vaxxer, and who in the past while on his Instagram had given platforms to people like Chefrin Jefferaya, who thinks that the immune system is affected by fear, and that also that water could be purified by positive thoughts. So it's no surprise really that Novak Djokovic has found himself with the world's most prevalent virus at the moment.
The entire thing is bizarre, Ronan. As Richie said, like, no social distancing, nobody wearing masks. Okay, if Novak Djokovic wants to come and help out and get tennis back up and running, and it's due to get back up and running anyways over the next few weeks, and we may well have a US Open, and if you wanted to go make something specially for television behind closed doors and make sure everything is 100% in tip-top shape, fine. But this felt like they were all a little bit bored and needed a bit of a party. We have some footage, so you can watch this now on the app. There was a night out, local nightclub, packed nightclub. These scenes you don't really want to see. Djokovic is up there. He's dancing. He's got no top on. Nobody's really wearing a top, it seems. These tennis players, they don't like to wear tops when they're in a nightclub. And to say there's no social distancing, there's a bit of Macarena going on. Is that what's happening right there? Either way, these are not the scenes we expect to see over the last 2 or 3 months. An absolutely wedged nightclub. Loads of the players there. There was footage of a basketball game as well where they've got their arms around each other. And unfortunately, the worst has happened. Almost all of the people involved in this have now tested positive for COVID-19. It's just absolute madness.
The worst thing about it is that is Djokovic, in his statement, he apologised obviously for everything that's happened, and also I guess to the other players that have become infected, but he also says this is a virus that we're learning a lot about, which isn't really a valid excuse 3 months into a pandemic or 4 months into a pandemic, whatever we are at now. It's been absolutely brainless from somebody who should know better.
Well, as you say, we are learning about it all the time, but the basics remain. The one thing we all know is that you should be social distancing, that you aren't in a sweaty nightclub with lots and lots of other people putting your arms around them. Unfortunately, those days are gone for a little while. We all long for their return, but we just got to wait a little while. And we're going to talk about this, as I say, at 7:30 with Ben Rothenberg, and about Djokovic in general, Ronan, because he has for quite a while had what a lot of people might have described as alternative views, but more and more, and this just reinforces it, actually a lot of his views are quite dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that that video we just played was posted by Nick Kyrgios, or retweeted at least, when Nick Kyrgios has taken the moral high ground, it kind of put things in stark picture anyway. But you're totally right on the Djokovic thing. We always talk about the role model status and should top level athletes be prescribed role model status. This is a totally different case where he is actually peddling harmful, like against the common consensus of medical information, basically, to his countless followers. So I think this is a different case study, and as much as we talk about him in tennis circles where he probably hasn't hit the heights in terms of popularity with Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal, and that's borne out when they play and it's very visible to see, but this is a whole other issue, and I think it's taken this, unfortunately, for people to shine a light on it.
I'm grand with him self-diagnosing as celiac and going gluten-free. Sure, I did that myself. I only wish now I could start to reintroduce some of it, the good stuff, the butter and the bread, all that sort of stuff. The old lack of dairy, lack of wheat, eventually it catches up with you. Particularly during a lockdown. These are the things you'd really savour. Yeah. 0-0 between Leicester and Brighton. There are 48 minutes gone. Is that where you're starting, Richie, or where are you starting?
We'll start with events last night, because Burnley are promising lifetime bans for those responsible for the racist banner flown above the Etihad Stadium. In a joint statement from Chairman Mike Garlick and CEO Neil Hart, Burnley have reaffirmed their support for Black Lives Matter. Lancashire police are investigating the flying of the far-right banner before Burnley's Premier League game at Manchester City. Chief Superintendent Russ Proctor says they are making inquiries to establish the full circumstances surrounding this incident, and we will be in a position to make an assessment as to whether any criminal offences have taken place. Burnley defender James Tarkowski echoed the sentiments of Ben Mee last night and expressed his disappointment at the incident today.
I think it's people, sort of narrow-minded people who are open to change and what people believe in. And I think you're seeing the vast majority of people behind the Black Lives Matter movement and sort of getting behind it. And then you've obviously got these one or two people who've decided to try and go against that. I think as a club we're very disappointed that it's linked to us and that people decided to do that. And as a group last night, we were all really against it and sort of upset by the fact that they decided to do that. Just moments after us all taking a knee and coming together to do that. So it's upsetting, and it's a shame that it had to be done by, as I say, one or two narrow-minded people. But I hope it doesn't mar sort of the way things have progressed recently and how many people have sort of backed it, and hopefully it can continue to progress the way it has done recently.
Yeah, they've been very strong, the Burnley players. Obviously, Ben Mee came out straight away after the match and addressed it. Wasn't even asked about it initially, but came straight out to express his disgust and the disgust of everybody involved in Burnley. And you hope that they can get to the bottom of this and find out exactly who hired the plane. Even the plane hire company's response, where I think it was, we don't take sides when people are looking at these banners. Like, there are no sides here, come on. So obviously the police are investigating. Jurgen Klopp was asked about it today.
Yeah, he's speaking ahead of tomorrow's game at Crystal Palace at Anfield, and Klopp says education is key to battling such incidents.
We have to educate our kids earlier. That's all the thing. We have to tell them immediately from the first day of our lives about equality, about we are all the same, stuff like this. That maybe what we failed in the past, but that's over now. So we can start that now, and we have to start that now. That in this generation there are obviously still people who don't want to understand, and you saw that not only last night, but last night was a sign for everybody that obviously there need to be more. We need more time to convince everybody about that.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp there ahead of that Palace game. We'll have that for you live tomorrow night here on Off the Ball. As you said, live games every single day this week and a 6 o'clock kickoff into the second half. Couple of games on today, Richie?
Yeah, Aaron Connolly, as the Senator mentioned there, started for Brighton and won a first-half penalty in their trip to Leicester City. However, Neil Maupay saw his penalty saved by Kasper Schmeichel in the Leicester goal. It remains into the second half, Leicester 0, Brighton 0. At 8:15, Tottenham entertain West Ham. Middlesbrough have confirmed that Robbie Keane has left the club. The Republic of Ireland's record goal scorer had been Jonathan Woodgate's assistant at the Championship strugglers. However, Woodgate was sacked this morning and replaced by Neil Warnock, who's come out of retirement at the age of 71. Keane has chosen to leave before his contract expires in the summer. Neil Blackwell and Ronnie Jepson are the new assistants under Warnock, who took training today.
It's obviously been a bit of a disaster season, Ronan, for Middlesbrough, but almost an expected disastrous season. They haven't had a huge amount of investment. Obviously, they brought in a new manager, Jonathan Woodgate, and bit of a surprise considering football's only back 4 days. I was wondering this at the weekend, whether we would have any sackings between now and the end of the season, because surely if you were going to make a change, the time to do it was when they would have had 3-4 weeks with the players in what we have learned is almost a pre-season. The timing is, more than anything, is the biggest surprise here.
Yeah, it's hard to know what could have happened in the last 4 days to shift the plates from before football resumes. So you're totally right. I don't understand why they couldn't have come to this decision earlier. But from a Robbie Keane point of view, obviously no longer with the senior setup, and I think he'd signed a short-term deal with Middlesbrough with a view to maybe dedicating more time to Ireland. So he kind of finds himself in limbo a little bit now, I think, with this. And then from the Neil Warnock side of things, I think someone tweeted earlier, Adam Hurrey, that he had to check his notes to make sure Neil Warnock hadn't been at Middlesbrough before, because it definitely feels like the most hand-in-glove appointment ever. Has anyone been more au fait with the Middlesbrough ethic than Neil Warnock?
Is this a full-time appointment, Richie, or is it just till the end of the season?
Yeah, it seems to be a full-time one. I think they want to stave off relegation and also maybe, who knows, with some investment in the summer, climb their way up the Championship table next season. On the timing of it, I can actually see the merit in what's happened here, because you have to factor in that the Championship wasn't exactly as sure of resuming as the Premier League has been. They pretty much decided late on, the EFL, that the Championship would be going ahead. So they may have been taking a wait and see approach to, whether or not they actually need to stave off relegation. And then if they've identified Warnock, who last year was saying he's definitely done with the game, if they've identified him as the man to succeed Jonathan Woodgate, he may have needed some convincing, and it may have needed some discussion, and maybe just the 3-0 defeat to Swansea at the weekend was the thing to push it over the edge. But Middlesbrough in dire straits. They've only won one game since New Year's Day, regardless of the time off. So they're definitely going to need a bit of a miracle under Warnock when he does get working now on Saturday.
One of the more offensive things in that video that nobody has remarked on is the limbo dance is still alive and well in the year 2020. Reminds me of a scene from that classic 1980s British comedy. Richie's eyes just perk up straight away there. The second you say 1980s classic British comedy, Duty Free, I don't remember it. Set somewhere on the Costa del Sol from Larry.
No, again, this is
2 nights in a row.
This is very specialist content that we're being.
I think they're trying to catch you out at this stage. Yeah, they're really not having it.
I think the only kind of airline travel related comedy that I would have recommended was the High Life feature.
Yes.
What's his name? Mr. Cummings, Alan Cummings. One of the best theme tunes of all time.
I don't remember the theme tune. Was it an original piece of work?
Yes, it was. It absolutely. It's like a big show tune number.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of with a big dance routine going. It's just. I'd recommend, if you're going to do anything this evening, apart from listen to Off the Ball and scroll through the new brilliant OTB Sports app, I would recommend listening to the theme tune to the High Life.
The dancing was pretty poor, it's got to be said. There was definitely a Macarena in there as well.
But the limbo, from my knowledge, it's still a staple of the South Armagh wedding scene, or any weddings I've been to. So it's still it's alive and well. And then Rock the Boat obviously is still.
Clearly.
I don't know how people are supposed to rock the boat with a 2 metre social distance in place. So we're going to have to sort that out.
It can be done. I think I saw somebody that was one of those slightly more ill-advised street gatherings did have a somewhat socially distanced Rock the Boat going on social media a few weeks ago. So I think it can be done.
All right. Message in from Raymond. What about Emmett Mullins? 3-month ban, 5k fine, broke COVID protocols at Leopardstown. Discuss. So this story just broke this evening. So Emmett Mullins, the trainer, I'm not sure if you have it in your news round, the statement came out from the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board. Basically, they have all sorts of protocols in place, obviously with racing resuming, and one of them is that you need to have a barcode to show that you followed all the protocols. And Emmett Mullin, it seems, turned up at Leopardstown on the 14th of June and didn't have the necessary barcode for the fixture. He had a horse running, and so therefore wasn't going to be allowed into the fixture. As he said himself, he panicked, it seems, and somehow managed to sly his way in to Leopardstown through an open gate or something, and was obviously spotted in the CCTV footage. And because of that, and because you may initially look at it and think it's quite harsh, a 3-month ban for a trainer and a €5,000 fine. If anything, it probably shows just how seriously Horse Racing Ireland feel they have to take this. There's so much focus on so many sports of doing the right thing, that any sort of slip up, and if this was spotted, it would raise questions as to what else is going amiss. So
yeah, you would imagine racing, the Horse Racing Ireland made a lot of promises to the government, and we've seen the extensive document that they put out. They said between them going into lockdown and between them, I think Brian Kavanagh said, between them going into lockdown, between them coming out and putting this document to them, it has essentially swelled to like 6 or 7 times its original length, just in terms of the regulations that they put in place. And they are taking this very, very seriously, and that ban and that fine certainly bears that out.
yeah, in normal times, a breach of some rules like that probably doesn't get as harshly punished, but to be the first to break them, I think they're always going to come down you like a ton of bricks, unfortunately. So Emmett Mullins is really going to pay the price for that. 53106, the text number if you want to get in touch. Still scoreless at the King Power Leicester against Brighton, 57 minutes gone.
Novak Djokovic, as you mentioned there, becoming the 4th player from the Adria Tour to contract COVID-19. The world number 1 organised tournaments in Serbia and Croatia, which did not have social distancing measures in place, and also allowed crowds to attend. Grigor Dimitrov, Borna Koric and Viktor Troitsky, plus his pregnant wife, were also infected. Djokovic and his wife Jelena are the latest to contract the virus. Tyrone's Conor McKenna, meanwhile, has tested negative for COVID-19 just 3 days after previously returning a positive test. The Essendon player tested positive last weekend, which saw his side's game with Melbourne postponed on Sunday and 2 other games rescheduled. After the positive test, the AFL also announced that they were restricting the amount of contact, even training sessions, that teams can do. The 24-year-old was heavily criticised in the Australian media for the positive result, but Essendon are now looking into the possibility that McKenna's positive test was in fact a false positive.
Yeah, this has been a crazy story to follow over the last few days, Ronan. Particularly, we touched on it last night, the media pylon in Australia on Conor McKenna and how he alone, it seemed, was going to be responsible for bringing down a multi-million-pound industry. Whereas now it seems he didn't test positive at all, that it was a false positive. And that all of this has been for nothing. You'd wonder how he's been doing through all of this.
Yeah, and it's almost, when it's gotten to this point, even though he's going to be cleared, it seems that the damage is almost done. He's been, the last week must have been so difficult for him, and to find himself at the centre of this, obviously not ideal, but hopefully he can move forward and park it at this stage. But as you said, the coverage was bordering on a witch hunt at times, like the invasive nature of it, and like analysing his every move on the field, off the field, as if like it was an open and shut case. Anyone coming to this story like on a superficial level and just glancing at the headline would assume he was dead to rights. So to come out to this extent that he's very much the opposite is incredible, really.
I can't believe, Richie, we haven't been touching on the main story of this game at 6 o'clock. And Brighton's new number 10, who I spotted straight away when the team was named, Alexis Mac Allister. What a great name. And obviously when you hear Mac Allister, I'm thinking, here we go, granny rule, we could be in luck here. Number 10, 21 years of age, born in Argentina. And then you start looking at his Wikipedia and you get even more excited because Alexis' older brother is
Carlos Mac Allister, isn't he?
His brothers are Kevin and Francis. You're thinking, we're in here, we are in here. And his father is Carlos Mac Allister, and he's the nephew of Patricio Mac Allister. But there's some Scottish and Irish blood there, but they have to go too far back.
It's too far back. I think it's actually mostly Scottish. Carlos Mac Allister was, I think, in the '94 Argentina squad. He was one of the standouts in the Panini sticker album that year because he was blonde and had the surname Mac Allister. So you're looking through the likes of Nestor Sensini and Abel Balbo and Maradona and Claudio Canigi, and you get to Carlos Mac Allister and you're like, what? But it all goes back to that Scottish and Irish lineage that's traced throughout Argentina. You only have to look so far as Vélez Sarsfield, who I think, funnily enough, Carlos Mac Allister played for.
He wasn't actually selected in the squad for the '94 World Cup. He was one of those players, and there were many in that sticker album that were in the album but didn't make the final squad.
Some of the finer ones in those kind of sticker albums, there was a star sticker album they put out for that World Cup whereby Mark Beanie, the Leeds goalkeeper, was in the Irish squad, despite, I don't think he ever fully declared for Ireland at any point. Lee Power was another, I think, that had a sticker in the star one too, the current Waterford boss. And
were they little stickers?
Winger. The star ones, I think they were. Yeah, it strikes me that the star ones are smaller. Yeah.
Hey Richie, especially for you, have a listen.
If we're feeling kind of tedious in life, it's seriously mediocre. Here's how to get that adrenaline flowing. Just step aboard a flowing going.
We're living it well. What a tune.
It is catchy. It is catchy, it's got to be said.
To be fair, the show was rubbish, right? Like, I'll admit that.
Was it? Oh, no, I thought it
was. No,
it wasn't pleasant.
It passed a half an hour.
Was it Friday night?
Friday night is part of a Friday night comedy block that I think had the Fast Show as well. But no, the actual show doesn't live long in the memory. The theme tune is really the thing about this one.
I can't believe in all those days of lockdown, JP didn't suggest the bringing back the Ray Foley segment of just playing theme tunes for the first 20 minutes of the show. I would have been all for that.
If JP had any ideas for during the lockdown, we all would have been happy. We could have just there was about 10 different segments from the Ray Foley show we should have just stolen to get us through all this. I'm still on them to bring back feedback, and we can have a proper pop off the rest of the News Talk schedule on a weekly basis. But we do it under the guise of humour.
I'd like to see how well that will go down.
Let's give it a go. Did he have any other good segments? I'm not sure. Forgotten now. I'm sure he'll remind us. He'll come rushing in any second. Oh, here he comes. He's got a very stern look in his face. No, feedback is not coming back, he tells me. He's shaking his head. Absolutely no chance. A lot of court cases. We're almost running out of time. Richie, what else you got for us?
Sad news today from the world of racing. Tributes paid to Grand National winning jockey Liam Treadwell, who's died at the age of just 34. Treadwell was aboard 100-to-1 shot Mon Mome at Aintree in 2009. He had retired from racing in 2018 after a series of head injuries and some personal problems as well. But we'll finish on some positive news for Ronan there. Dundalk have signed former United States international winger Joshua Gatt. The 28-year-old has signed a short-term deal with the league champions. Gatt previously played under Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Molde. His signing comes on the same day that Dundalk confirmed former Waterford boss Alan Reynolds is one of Vinnie Perth's new assistants. Reynolds replaces Rory Higgins, who left to work with Stephen Kenny's Republic of Ireland setup.
All you need now, Ronan, is for them to agree to cancel the season and start it all over again. So that defeat to Shamrock Rovers would be like it never even happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I was getting a bit worried there given the status of negotiations with the FAI and the League of Ireland to try and get the thing back. I thought Shamrock Rovers were going to be declared champions in 8th, but everyone in Off the Ball knows you can't just declare a team champions after 5 games. So
there's no precedence. No precedence for that whatsoever.
Listen, the way Bows have started this season, I'll gladly take a do-over.
So the latest in the Premier League, 64 minutes gone, Leicester against Brighton. The 8:15 kickoff is Spurs against West Ham. We'll obviously keep a close eye on that. Kevin Kilban is going to join us. Any messages for Kev when he's on the football show?
Do you remember us, Kev?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Sounds fine if you.
All right, yeah. We'll pass on your regards anyway. So he's coming up after 9 o'clock. We'll have Alan Quinlan's How's the Head after 8. He's talking to John Kerwin. But up next, we are going to talk about Novak Djokovic and his positive diagnosis for COVID-19. Thanks, lads.
The 3-time world champions take on the European champions. Who will be crowned the best team in the world today? Rapina taking on Van Lunteren. Morgan! Just about kept out by Van Veenendaal to Morgan. Morgan's drive! Brilliant save! penalty. It's Rapinoe against Van Veenendaal. It's 1-0.